Unlock the secret learning superpower hidden in your brain. Did you know your brain has an extraordinary ability to master new skills, faster and easier than you ever imagined? The truth is, you're not bad at math, languages, or any subject. You just haven't been using your brain the way it's designed to learn. Neuroscience has uncovered revolutionary insights about how we learn. Yet most people still study using outdated methods that actually work against their brain's natural wiring. What if you could? Cut study time in half while remembering more, turn frustrating subjects into exciting puzzles, make learning feel effortless and enjoyable. The secret lies in hacking your brain's built-in learning systems. Whether you're a struggling student, career changer, or lifelong learner, your mind is packed with untapped potential waiting to be unleashed. This isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter with your brain's secret rules. You're about to discover how to learn anything in a way that's faster, deeper, and more fun than you thought possible. Your learning revolution starts now. Let's rewire your approach and unleash the genius-level learner inside you. Chapter 1. Your brain is a superpower. You were born with the most powerful learning machine in the universe, your brain. It's not just good at learning. It's designed for it. Every time you discover something new, solve a problem, or even make a mistake, your brain physically changes. Tiny connections between brain cells grow stronger, like paths in a forest becoming clearer the more you walk them. This isn't magic, it's neuroscience, and it means you can literally upgrade your brain through learning. Think about babies for a moment. They go from not knowing anything to walking, talking, and understanding their world in just a few years. How? Because their brains are learning machines, soaking up information like sponges. Here's the amazing truth. Your brain never loses this ability. Whether you're 10 or 40, your brain can keep forming new connections and mastering new skills. The difference between a fast learner and someone who struggles often comes down to understanding how learning actually works. Let me tell you about a fascinating study of London taxi drivers. To get their license, these drivers have to memorize every street in the enormous city of London, a process that takes years. Scientists scanned their brains before and after this training and found something incredible. The part of their brain responsible for spatial memory, the hippocampus, had actually grown larger. This proves that when we challenge our brains in specific ways, they physically adapt to meet those challenges. You might be thinking, but I'm not good at learning. Here's the truth. There's no such thing as a bad learner. Only people using methods that don't work with how their brain naturally learns. Maybe school made you think you're not smart because you struggled with certain subjects. That's like saying you're bad at cooking because you've only ever used a toaster. The problem isn't you, it's the tools and methods you've been given. Consider the story of Albert Einstein. As a child, he struggled in school and was even thought to be slow. His teachers complained that he asked too many questions and didn't follow instructions well. But this weakness was actually his greatest strength, his relentless curiosity. Einstein didn't learn like everyone else, so traditional schooling was hard for him. Yet his unique way of thinking led to world-changing discoveries about the universe. Your brain has this same potential. Right now, there are about 100 billion neurons in your head, each connected to thousands of others. This creates a network more complex than all the computers on Earth combined. When you learn something new, electrical signals zip along these connections at speeds up to 268 miles per hour. Every experience, every fact, every skill you practice is literally wiring and rewiring this incredible network. Some people think intelligence is fixed, that you're born smart or not. Modern science proves this completely wrong. Intelligence is much more like a muscle. When you exercise it properly, it gets stronger. A study at Stanford University found that students who learned about brain plasticity, the ability to grow and change, improved their grades significantly, especially those who had previously struggled. Just understanding that your brain can grow makes you learn better. Here's a simple experiment you can try right now to see your brain's power in action. Try memorizing these numbers: 8, 5, 1, 2, 9, 3. Now look away and try to recall them. How did you do? Now try this. Imagine the numbers as a story. Maybe it's an 8-ball from pool, rolling down a hill and bumping into 5 trees, then seeing one sun with 2 clouds, while 9 birds fly past 3 dogs. Suddenly, the numbers become much easier to remember because you're using your brain's natural ability for stories and images. This brings us to an important truth. Your brain doesn't store information like a computer filing facts away in folders. It works through connections, emotions, and patterns. That's why you might forget someone's name 2 seconds after meeting them, but remember every detail of an embarrassing moment from years ago. The more you can connect new information to things you already know or find interesting, the better you'll learn. Think about how you remember song lyrics. You probably didn't sit down to memorize them. They stuck because of repetition, rhythm, and maybe the emotions you felt when hearing the song. This shows how powerful natural learning can be when it taps into how your brain actually works, rather than fighting against it. Now consider video games. When you play a new game, you don't start by reading the entire instruction manual. You jump in, make mistakes, figure things out as you go, and gradually improve. This is actually one of the most effective ways to learn anything. The game gives you immediate feedback, you lose health when you make a wrong move, and lets you practice in a low-pressure way. We can apply these same principles to learning math, languages, or any new skill. Here's something remarkable about your brain. It works best when challenged just beyond its current abilities. Scientists call this the zone of proximal development. If a task is too easy, you get bored. If it's too hard, you get frustrated. But when it's just slightly beyond what you can currently do, that's when the most growth happens. It's like lifting weights. You need enough resistance to make your muscles grow, but not so much that you hurt yourself. Many people give up on learning because they hit what's called the OK plateau. This is when you're good enough at something to get by, but not truly excellent. Think of someone who can type quickly but never learns proper finger placement, or someone who speaks a foreign language with lots of mistakes but doesn't try to improve. The brain loves efficiency, so it tends to stick with what works rather than pushing to the next level. But with the right techniques, you can push past these plateaus. Your brain also learns best when it cares about the information. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to remember details about your favorite hobby or celebrity? That's because emotion and interest supercharge memory. The more you can connect what you're learning to things you genuinely care about, the faster and more deeply you'll learn. This is why great teachers tell stories and make lessons relevant to students' lives. Sleep is another superpower for your brain. While you're sleeping, your brain isn't just resting, it's actively processing and organizing what you learned that day. Studies show that people who sleep after learning something remember it better than those who stay awake. Pulling all-nighters to study actually works against your brain's natural learning process. Finally, here's the most important thing to remember. Your ability to learn isn't determined by some fixed measure of intelligence. It's determined by your understanding of how learning works, your willingness to try different strategies, and most importantly, your belief that you can improve. This growth mindset, the belief that your abilities can develop through effort, is what separates those who reach their potential from those who don't. Chapter 2. The 2 modes of thinking. Your brain has 2 very different ways of tackling problems, and understanding this could completely change how you learn. Imagine your mind has 2 superheroes living inside it. One is laser-focused and detail-oriented, while the other is creative and makes unexpected connections. Scientists call these the focused mode and diffuse mode of thinking, and switching between them is the secret weapon of top learners. When you're concentrating hard on solving a math problem or memorizing vocabulary, you're using focus mode. This is when your brain zeroes in on specific information, like a flashlight beam shining on one spot. Your prefrontal cortex, the planning and decision-making part of your brain, is hard at work, following logical steps to reach a solution. This mode is essential for mastering details and practicing skills until they become automatic. But here's where things get interesting. That intense focus can actually prevent you from solving certain types of problems. Have you ever struggled with a question, taken a break, and then suddenly realized the answer while showering or walking the dog? That's your diffuse mode at work. In this relaxed state, your brain makes broad connections between different ideas, like a wide net capturing solutions from all corners of your mind. The story of Archimedes and his famous Eureka moment perfectly illustrates this. The ancient Greek mathematician had been struggling to solve a difficult problem about gold purity for days, working in focus mode. The breakthrough came when he stopped trying so hard. While taking a bath, he noticed how the water level rose as he entered, suddenly understanding the principle of displacement. His diffuse mode had connected the dots his focus mode couldn't see. Modern science confirms what Archimedes discovered accidentally. Researchers at Stanford University found that people who took short breaks during demanding mental tasks solved more creative problems than those who worked continuously. Brain scans show that when we relax, different neural networks start communicating that don't normally talk to each other. This is why showers, walks, and daydreaming often lead to brilliant insights. Consider how professional musicians practice. They alternate between focus sessions, carefully working on difficult passages note by note, and diffuse periods where they play through pieces more casually. The focused work builds precision, while the diffuse playing helps them understand the music as a whole. This same rhythm applies to learning anything, from physics to painting. Here's a simple experiment to experience both modes. Try solving this classic riddle in focused mode. A man lives on the 10th floor of a building. Every day he takes the elevator to the ground floor to go to work. When he returns, he takes the elevator to the 7th floor and walks up the stairs to reach his apartment on the 10th floor. Why? Stare at it, analyze it, get frustrated by it. Now take a 5-minute break, look out the window, doodle, or make a snack. When you return, you might suddenly realize the man is too short to reach the button for the 10th floor. This alternating rhythm of intense focus and relaxed thinking applies to everything from homework to career challenges. Thomas Edison famously used this approach when working on inventions. He would sit with a problem in focus mode, then take naps holding steel balls in his hands. As he drifted towards sleep, entering diffuse mode, the balls would drop, waking him up with fresh insights. Students often make the mistake of thinking that more hours of focused studying equals better learning. But research shows that marathon study sessions are far less effective than shorter sessions spaced out with breaks. A study at the University of Illinois found that brief diversions from a task dramatically improve focus on that task for prolonged periods. The brain needs those diffuse mode breaks to consolidate information and make creative leaps. You can see this principle in action with video game design. Good games alternate between challenging levels that require intense focus and easier sections that let players relax and explore. This rhythm keeps players engaged and learning without burning out. We can apply this same structure to our study sessions. 25 minutes of focused work followed by 5 minutes of diffuse activity like stretching or humming a song. The two modes even use different brain chemicals. Focus mode relies on neurotransmitters like norepinephrine that help with attention and alertness. Diffuse mode involves acetylcholine, which supports imagination and big-picture thinking. This is why caffeine can help with focused tasks but might hinder creative ones, and why some of your best ideas come when you're half asleep in the morning. Professional athletes understand this balance deeply. They alternate between intense practice sessions and complete rest days. During rest, their muscles repair and grow stronger, and remarkably, their brains are also consolidating the motor skills they've been practicing. Mental learning follows the same biological rules as physical training. This brings us to an important warning about modern life. Our phones and constant notifications are training us to stay in shallow focus, never reaching deep focus or true diffuse mode. Every ping pulls us back to surface-level thinking. The most effective learners deliberately create tech-free zones to access both thinking modes fully. Here's how you can apply this today. Next time you're stuck on a problem, set a timer for 25 minutes of focused effort. Then take a real break, not switching to another screen, but doing something physical or mind-wandering. You might be amazed at how solutions appear when you return. Chapter 3. The Power of Curiosity. Imagine your brain is like a hungry explorer. It craves new discoveries the way your stomach growls for food. This natural hunger for knowledge is called curiosity, and it's not just a personality trait, it's your brain's built-in learning accelerator. When you're genuinely curious about something, your brain releases dopamine, the same feel-good chemical that rewards you for eating chocolate or winning a game. But here's the magical part. This dopamine doesn't just make you happy. It actually helps your brain form stronger memories. Scientists have discovered that curiosity prepares your brain to learn in remarkable ways. A study at the University of California showed that when people were curious about the answers to trivia questions, they were not only more likely to remember those answers, but also better at remembering unrelated information they encountered while in that curious state. It's as if curiosity switches on your brain's learning headlights, illuminating everything around the subject you're exploring. Consider the story of young Marie Curie, who grew up in Poland under Russian rule when girls weren't allowed to attend university. Her insatiable curiosity about the glowing minerals in her father's physics lab led her to conduct groundbreaking radioactivity research in a freezing shed laboratory. Despite poverty and discrimination, her burning questions drove her to become the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and the only person to win in 2 different sciences. Her secret weapon wasn't genius, but relentless curiosity that turned obstacles into discoveries. You've experienced this curiosity boost yourself. Remember when you fell down a Wikipedia rabbit hole, clicking link after link because each answer sparked new questions? Or when you stayed up late researching something that suddenly fascinated you? That's your natural learning system operating at peak performance. No flashcards or forced memorization required. Modern education often gets this backward. Schools frequently focus on delivering answers before students have asked questions. But research shows that when learners first generate their own questions about a topic, they understand and remember the answers much better. This explains why children who constantly ask why learn so rapidly. They're directing their own learning through curiosity. Here's a simple experiment to try. Next time you need to learn something new, whether it's historical dates or programming concepts, start by writing down all the questions you have about the topic before looking for answers. For example, if learning about photosynthesis, you might ask, why do plants need sunlight to grow? What would happen if plants stopped doing this? Could we invent artificial photosynthesis? This primes your brain to care about the answers. The business world has caught onto curiosity's power too. Google famously allows employees to spend 20% of their time pursuing projects they're curious about, which led to innovations like Gmail and Google Maps. 3M's 15% time policy similarly resulted in products like Post-it notes. These companies understand that curiosity-driven exploration often yields the most valuable breakthroughs. Curiosity also helps overcome learning obstacles. When you hit a difficult concept in math or science, instead of thinking, I can't understand this, try asking, why does this work this way? Or, who first discovered this principle? This subtle shift from frustration to investigation activates different neural pathways that make understanding easier. Your smartphone can be a curiosity killer or amplifier. It depends how you use it. Mindless scrolling numbs curiosity, but deliberately using it to dive deep into questions. How do touchscreens work? Why do we yawn? Transforms it into the most powerful learning device ever invented. The key is to follow your genuine questions rather than passively consuming content. Interestingly, curiosity follows an inverted U-shaped curve. We're most curious about topics where we know enough to ask good questions, but not so much that everything feels familiar. This explains why complete beginners and total experts may feel less curiosity about a subject than intermediate learners. The sweet spot for maximum learning is right in that Goldilocks zone. Not too simple, not too complex. Children are natural curiosity machines. The average 4-year-old asks about 300 questions per day. But around age 5 to 7, this questioning often declines sharply as children learn that school rewards right answers more than good questions. The most successful lifelong learners retain or rediscover that childlike curiosity. You can cultivate curiosity like a garden. Start by paying attention to what naturally piques your interest. Maybe it's how bridges don't collapse, why some songs get stuck in your head, or how video game designers create addictive levels. Then practice the 5 whys technique. Whenever you notice something interesting, ask, why 5 times to dig deeper. You'll uncover fascinating connections that make learning effortless. Sleep plays a surprising role in curiosity. Studies show that people are more likely to seek out novel information and solutions after a good night's sleep. Your brain uses sleep time to organize information and highlight gaps in your knowledge, essentially generating natural curiosity about what you don't yet understand. Curiosity has an emotional component too. We're most curious when we feel safe to explore but challenged enough to stay engaged. This explains why the best teachers in video games create what psychologists call the curiosity gap, providing enough information to spark interest while leaving room for questions. You can do this for yourself by previewing material before studying it. Scan chapter headings or watch an introductory video to prime your curiosity. Chapter 4. Making friends with mistakes. Your brain does something extraordinary every time you make a mistake. It literally rewires itself. That sinking feeling when you get something wrong? That's actually your brain's growth signal kicking into high gear. Scientists using MRI machines have observed that when people recognize their errors, their brains show intense activity in the regions responsible for learning and memory. This means mistakes aren't just inevitable parts of learning. They're essential fuel for your brain's development. The fear of being wrong holds many people back from their full learning potential. In classrooms and workplaces across the world, we're often taught that mistakes equal failure. But cutting-edge neuroscience reveals the opposite. When you avoid mistakes, you avoid deep learning. Your brain builds stronger, more durable knowledge when it first stumbles and corrects itself than when it gets everything right immediately. This explains why students who struggle through difficult problems often understand concepts more thoroughly than those who breeze through material without errors. Consider the story of James Dyson, inventor of the revolutionary bagless vacuum cleaner. Before creating his successful model, Dyson made 5,127 failed prototypes over 15 years. Each mistake taught him something new about airflow, cyclonic separation, and materials engineering. While others might have given up after a dozen attempts, Dyson famously said, "Each failure brought me closer to the solution." His willingness to embrace mistakes as teachers ultimately led to a billion-dollar invention that changed an entire industry. You can see this principle in action with how babies learn to walk. Imagine if infants gave up after their first tumble. Humanity would be crawling everywhere. Instead, each wobble and fall provides crucial feedback about balance, gravity, and muscle control. The baby's brain uses this error information to adjust movements until walking becomes automatic. This same process applies to learning algebra, playing guitar, or mastering public speaking. Your brain needs those initial stumbles to calibrate eventual success. Here's a fascinating experiment from psychology. Researchers gave two groups of students the same material to learn. The first group studied normally, while the second group was deliberately given challenging questions designed to make them err before seeing the correct answers. When tested later, the mistake-making group outperformed the others by significant margins. Their early errors had created desirable difficulties that led to stronger learning. This explains why some of the most effective learning techniques feel frustrating at first. Retrieval practice, trying to recall information without prompts, and spaced repetition, reviewing material at increasing intervals, both involve productive struggle. You'll initially make more mistakes using these methods than simply rereading notes, but you'll retain information far longer. It's like building mental muscle. The temporary burn leads to greater strength. The business world is catching on to mistake-powered learning. Tech companies like Google and Amazon now conduct failure conferences, where teams analyze mistakes to extract lessons. Hospitals hold morbidity and mortality meetings to study medical errors without blame. Even professional sports teams review game footage, focusing more on their errors than successes. These organizations recognize that properly examined mistakes provide invaluable learning data. Your brain has two distinct responses to mistakes. The first is an "oh no" reaction, a quick burst of electrical activity detectable about 50 milliseconds after an error. But about 100 to 500 milliseconds later comes the more important aha response, your brain's effort to analyze and correct the mistake. Neuroscience shows that people who focus on the second response learn faster than those who dwell on the first. This is why saying "interesting" instead of "I'm stupid" when you err makes such a difference. Language learning provides a perfect example. Studies show that students who boldly speak a new language despite making tons of errors progress much faster than those who stay silent to avoid mistakes. The errors provide immediate feedback about grammar and pronunciation. This explains why immersion environments produce such rapid learning. Constant real-world use means constant error correction. You can harness mistake power right now with this exercise. Take a subject you're learning and deliberately test yourself beyond your comfort zone. If studying history, try explaining an event before you feel ready. If learning coding, attempt writing a program before checking the textbook. Notice where you stumble. These precise points reveal your growing edge. Keep an error log to track patterns in your mistakes. This transforms them from embarrassments into personalized learning guides. The most successful learners develop what Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset. The belief that abilities develop through effort rather than being fixed traits. People with this mindset see mistakes as information rather than identity. Instead of thinking, "I'm bad at math," they think, "My current approach to this math problem isn't working. What should I try differently?" Modern technology often shields us from beneficial mistakes. Autocorrect fixes our spelling errors, calculators prevent arithmetic slips, and GPS prevents wrong turns. While convenient, this eliminates opportunities for error-based learning. Try periodically turning off these aids to keep your fundamental skills sharp through natural mistake correction. Interestingly, making mistakes in front of others can accelerate learning if handled correctly. Research shows that when teachers or leaders openly acknowledge and analyze their errors, It creates psychological safety that helps everyone learn better. This explains why the best mentors share their failure resumes, along with their successes. Your brain even has a special mechanism for tracking mistakes called the error-related negativity (ERN) signal. This neural mistake detector becomes more sensitive with practice. Essentially, the more you pay attention to your errors, the better your brain gets at preventing similar ones in the future. It's like developing a built-in quality control system. As you continue your learning journey, remember this counterintuitive truth. The path to fewer mistakes isn't avoiding them. It's making plenty early on and learning from each one. Like a GPS recalculating your route after a wrong turn, your brain uses errors to navigate toward mastery. In our next chapter, we'll explore how breaking information into chunks makes complex topics manageable. But first, try this. For one day, celebrate every mistake you make by noting down what it taught you. You might be surprised how quickly this reframing accelerates your learning. Chapter 5. Chunking, your brain's file folder system. Your brain has a remarkable filing system for complex information that works similarly to how you organize files on your computer. This natural process called chunking explains why you can remember a 10-digit phone number as 3 chunks, 555, 867, 5309, but struggle with 10 random digits. When you master chunking, you can learn complex subjects with the same ease as remembering your favorite song lyrics. Neuroscientists have found that chess masters, emergency room doctors, and concert pianists all rely on this mental organization system to perform at elite levels. The magic of chunking happens in your working memory, the mental scratchpad that holds about 4 pieces of information at once. By grouping related concepts into meaningful chunks, you effectively expand your brain's processing capacity. Think of it like moving from carrying loose groceries in your hands, where you can only hold a few items, to using organized bags, where you can carry entire meals. A study at Carnegie Mellon University revealed that students who learned physics through chunking principles outperformed traditionally taught peers by 30% on problem-solving tests. Consider how Mozart composed entire symphonies in his head. While this seems superhuman, his secret was chunking musical patterns he'd mastered over years of practice. Similarly, when you look at a word like unbelievable, you don't read each letter separately, you instantly recognize chunks like undash, believe, and able. This automatic processing allows fluent reading just as chunking allows fluent thinking in any subject. Here's a fascinating real-world example. Emergency room doctors use chunking to save lives during trauma cases. Through training, they've grouped thousands of symptoms, tests, and treatments into recognizable patterns like cardiac event or neurological crisis. This mental organization lets them bypass slow, step-by-step analysis and make rapid, accurate decisions. You can develop this same skill with academic subjects or professional knowledge through deliberate chunking practice. Try this chunking exercise right now with random letters. Bishanbatwak at first glance, this looks impossible to remember. Now see it chunked. FBICIANBATWAC suddenly, what was 12 meaningless letters becomes 5 familiar abbreviations. This same principle applies when learning anything from chemistry formulas to programming languages. Your brain automatically searches for familiar patterns to reduce cognitive load. Language learning demonstrates chunking's power beautifully. When you first hear a foreign language, it sounds like an uninterrupted stream of noise. But as you learn words and phrases, your brain starts recognizing chunks of meaning. Eventually, you stop hearing individual words and instead comprehend complete ideas. Proof your chunking system is working. This explains why immersion works better than vocabulary drills. It forces your brain to find meaningful chunks in real communication. Your brain creates chunks through a specific biological process. When you focus intensely on a concept and then relax, your neurons fire together in new patterns that eventually wire together. This wire together principle means that deliberate focus followed by diffuse mode rest from Chapter 2 is essential for forming strong chunks. Sleep is particularly important for this process. During deep sleep, your brain rehearses and strengthens the day's new chunks. Computer science provides a perfect analogy for chunking. Early programmers had to write in binary code, sequences of ones and zeros, which was incredibly difficult. Then they developed higher-level languages that grouped binary patterns into recognizable commands like print or save. Modern programming uses even larger chunks like entire frameworks and libraries. Each advancement allowed programmers to work at higher levels of abstraction, exactly what happens in your brain as you master any subject. Muscle memory is actually chunking in your motor cortex. When you first learn to type or play guitar, each movement requires conscious effort. But with practice, your brain chunks these actions into fluid sequences. This explains why expert typists can't tell you where letters are on the keyboard. Their fingers know the chunks automatically. You're using this right now as you read. You don't sound out each letter but recognize whole words and phrases instantly. A groundbreaking study at MIT tracked students learning to identify microscopic bacteria. Novices tried to memorize individual features, while experts recognized chunked patterns like gram-positive cocci in clusters. The experts weren't smarter. They'd simply organized information into mental categories that made identification effortless. This explains why medical students transition from overwhelmed beginners to confident diagnosticians. They develop an organized mental library of disease patterns. Here's how to apply chunking to your current learning goals. 1. Identify key concepts. Isolate the fundamental elements you need to master. Practice focused attention. Work intensely with one concept at a time. Find connections. Relate new information to existing knowledge. Create meaningful groups. Organize related ideas into memorable units. Test recall. Regularly retrieve chunks from memory to strengthen them. Build hierarchy. Combine small chunks into larger systems of knowledge. Video game designers use chunking principles to create addictive learning curves. Early levels teach basic controls, small chunks, which later combine into complex maneuvers. By the final levels, players effortlessly execute elaborate sequences that would overwhelm a beginner. This same graduated chunking approach works for learning instruments, languages, or scientific concepts. Your smartphone habits are actually training your chunking abilities in unexpected ways. Emojis have become modern visual chunks. A single face with tears of joy conveys what might take 10 words to explain. While some argue this reduces language skills, research shows people who use emojis effectively often have stronger communication skills, as they're practicing rapid symbolic thinking. An intriguing study at the University of Amsterdam found that jazz musicians improvise by mixing pre-chunked musical phrases in novel ways. Their brains access a library of practice patterns, then creatively recombine them. This explains why mastering fundamentals is essential for creativity. You need strong chunks before you can innovate with them. As you continue learning, remember that expertise isn't about knowing more facts. It's about better organization of information. In our next chapter, we'll explore how deliberate practice transforms chunks into mastery. But first, try this. Take a complex topic you're learning and create a chunk map, a visual diagram showing how key concepts connect. You'll be amazed how quickly this clarifies difficult material. Chapter 6. The magic of deliberate practice. The difference between playing tennis for 20 years and becoming Serena Williams lies in one crucial factor: deliberate practice. This isn't mere repetition. It's a targeted, scientific approach to improvement that transforms adequate performers into extraordinary masters. Neuroscience reveals that when practice follows specific principles, it physically alters your brain's structure, creating what researchers call expertise-induced neuroplasticity. At its core, deliberate practice consists of focused, goal-driven training sessions designed to push you slightly beyond your current abilities. A landmark study of violinists at Berlin's Academy of Music found that the elite performers weren't genetically gifted. They'd simply logged about 10,000 hours of deliberate practice by age 20. The critical insight: these top musicians spent their practice time differently, fully focused on their weakest areas with immediate feedback, rather than mindlessly replaying comfortable pieces. Consider the case of Michelangelo and the Sistine Chapel. While the finished ceiling appears superhuman, examination of his preparatory sketches reveals a painstaking process of deliberate practice. He didn't simply paint beautifully. He broke the challenge into components: human anatomy, studying cadavers; perspective, creating scaled models; and fresco technique, practicing on sample panels. Each element received targeted practice before being combined into the final masterpiece. This systematic approach transformed an impossible commission into one of humanity's greatest artistic achievements. Your brain responds to deliberate practice with visible physical changes. MRI scans show that London taxi drivers develop enlarged hippocampi from navigating complex streets, while concert pianists show expanded motor cortex areas controlling their fingers. These aren't genetic advantages. They're the direct results of specific practice methods. Even more remarkably, when retirees learn juggling, their brain's white matter, the neural wiring, measurably thickens within weeks. Here's how deliberate practice differs from regular practice. 1. Targeted weakness improvement. Instead of practicing what you already do well, you identify and work on specific shortcomings. Full concentration. Sessions demand 100% focus. No distractions or autopilot repetition. Immediate feedback. You know instantly whether you succeeded or need adjustment. Comfort zone expansion. Each session pushes your abilities slightly beyond their current limits. Mental representation building. You develop increasingly sophisticated models of the skill. The business world has embraced these principles through what Amazon calls working backwards. Teams start by imagining the perfect product or service, then systematically identify and practice the skills needed to create it. This explains why Amazon can innovate across so many industries. They're applying deliberate practice to business development itself. Try this deliberate practice exercise with a skill you're developing. 1. Record yourself performing the skill. Speaking a foreign language, shooting basketball free throws, playing a musical passage. Compare your performance to an expert model, identifying 3 precise gaps. Isolate the most critical gap and design a micro-exercise to target just that element. Practice this micro-skill with total focus for 15 minutes. Re-record and compare. You'll notice measurable improvement in that specific area. Language learning demonstrates deliberate practice perfectly. While passive immersion helps, research shows the fastest progress comes from comprehensible input +1. Exposing yourself to language just slightly above your current level while actively working to bridge that gap. This explains why the most effective language apps gradually increase difficulty based on your performance. An intriguing military study revealed that fighter pilots improve faster using advanced flight simulators that provide instant performance feedback than through actual flight experience. The simulators allow precisely targeted deliberate practice, repeating difficult maneuvers with adjustments until mastered. This same principle applies to any skill. Virtual reality and simulation technologies are revolutionizing skill acquisition by enabling safe, focused deliberate practice. Your smartphone can become a deliberate practice powerhouse if used strategically. Apps like Photomath don't just give math answers. They provide step-by-step feedback on problem-solving approaches. Language apps like Duolingo adjust difficulty based on your performance. Even fitness trackers provide real-time feedback on workout form and intensity. The key is using these tools actively rather than passively. Psychological research has identified the OK plateau, the point where most people stop improving because their performance becomes automatic. Typists, for example, reach a comfortable speed and rarely push beyond it. Deliberate practice prevents this plateau by constantly identifying and overcoming new challenges. This explains why the best performers in any field continue coaching throughout their careers. They need outside eyes to spot subtle improvement opportunities. The most effective practice sessions follow the Goldilocks principle. Tasks should be neither too easy, causing boredom, nor too hard, causing frustration. Neuroscience shows that maximum growth occurs at the edge of your abilities, where you succeed about 60 to 80% of the time. Video game designers use this principle instinctively. Levels get progressively harder but remain achievable with effort. Surprisingly, deliberate practice requires significant rest. World-class performers typically limit focused practice to 3 to 5 hours daily, broken into 60 to 90-minute sessions with breaks. Your brain consolidates skills during downtime, explaining why many breakthroughs come after stepping away from intense practice. This parallels our earlier discussion of focused versus diffuse thinking modes. Modern workplaces are applying deliberate practice principles through microskilling. Instead of generic training days, employees receive 5 to 10-minute daily exercises targeting specific skill gaps identified by performance data. A study at Deloitte found this approach improved competency 3x faster than traditional training methods. As you incorporate deliberate practice into your learning, remember, the goal isn't perfection in every session, but systematic growth over time. In our next chapter, we'll explore how your physical body supports learning. But first, try this. For 1 week, replace 30 minutes of casual practice with 30 minutes of deliberate practice on a chosen skill. The results may astonish you. Chapter 7, The Body-Brain Connection. Your brain doesn't learn in isolation. It's profoundly influenced by the physical state of your body. Cutting-edge research reveals that movement, nutrition, and sleep don't just support learning. They actively enhance your brain's ability to absorb, process, and retain information. Imagine your brain as the CEO of a company. It depends on the entire organization, your body, functioning optimally to make executive decisions effectively. When you optimize your physical health, you're not just caring for your body, you're upgrading your learning operating system. The connection between movement and cognition is far more powerful than most people realize. Aerobic exercise stimulates the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein scientists call miracle-grow for the brain. This remarkable substance encourages the growth of new neural connections and even promotes neurogenesis, the birth of new brain cells. A groundbreaking study at the University of British Columbia found that regular aerobic exercise actually increases the size of the hippocampus, the brain region essential for memory and learning. Participants who incorporated walking into their routine showed significant improvements in memory tests compared to those who only did stretching exercises. Consider the remarkable educational approach used at Naperville Central High School in Illinois. When administrators noticed students struggling with traditional classroom learning, they implemented a revolutionary zero-hour PE program. Students began each day with intense cardiovascular exercise before academics. The results were astounding. Participating students showed 17% improvement in reading comprehension compared to their sedentary peers, with math scores improving even more dramatically. This wasn't just about burning off energy. The physical activity was biologically priming their brains for optimal learning. Your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living in your digestive system, plays an unexpectedly vital role in cognitive function. These microorganisms produce about 90% of your body's serotonin, a neurotransmitter crucial for mood regulation and learning, and directly influence inflammation levels that affect brain performance. Research at UCLA demonstrated that changing gut bacteria through diet could alter brain function in as little as 4 weeks. This explains why students who eat balanced diets consistently outperform those with poor nutrition, even when controlling for other factors. Sleep is perhaps the most underrated learning enhancer. While you sleep, your brain isn't resting. It's actively consolidating memories, making creative connections, and clearing out metabolic waste that accumulates during waking hours. Harvard research shows that people who sleep after learning new information retain 30 to 50% more than those who stay awake for the same period. Even more fascinating, different sleep stages serve distinct learning functions. Deep sleep strengthens factual memory, while REM sleep enhances creative problem-solving abilities. Here's a startling real-world example of sleep's power. When the United States Air Force changed pilot schedules to ensure 8 hours of sleep, performance improved by 34%, equivalent to doubling their training time. Similarly, a study of college students found that those who maintained consistent sleep schedules during exams outperformed all-nighters by a full letter grade on average. Your brain uses sleep to file new information properly. Skipping sleep is like scattering important documents across your office floor instead of organizing them in filing cabinets. Hydration affects cognitive performance more dramatically than most people realize. Even mild dehydration, just 1 to 2% fluid loss, can impair concentration, memory, and decision-making. A study at the University of East London found that drinking water during exams improved student performance by up to 10%. The difference between AB and an A grade. Your brain is approximately 75% water, and every neural communication depends on proper hydration levels. Try this simple experiment to experience the body-brain connection firsthand. 1. Choose a challenging mental task, like memorizing a poem or solving math problems. 2. Perform it first after sitting still for 30 minutes. 3. Then perform it after 20 minutes of brisk walking or dancing. 4. Compare your focus, speed, and accuracy between the two conditions. You'll likely find that movement dramatically enhances your cognitive performance. This is the BDNF and increased blood flow to your brain in action. The business world has taken note of these findings. Innovative companies like Google and Nike now incorporate walking meetings, standing desks, and on-site gyms not just for employee health, but because they recognize the cognitive benefits. A Stanford study confirmed that walking boosts creative output by an average of 60%. Explaining why so many breakthrough ideas occur during showers or walks. Your posture physically affects your thinking. Research shows that sitting upright increases persistence on difficult problems by 30% compared to slouching, while power poses, open, expansive postures, temporarily boost testosterone and reduce cortisol, creating optimal neurochemical conditions for learning. This explains why students who sit up straight in class often perform better. Their posture is literally putting their brain in learning mode. The timing of meals impacts learning efficiency. The traditional heavy lunch actually works against optimal afternoon learning. Blood diverted to digestion means less available for your brain. Many high-performing individuals follow the rockstar breakfast, king lunch, pauper dinner pattern, front-loading calories when mental demands are highest. Intermittent fasting has also shown cognitive benefits by stimulating autophagy, cellular cleanup, and increasing BDNF production. Environmental temperature surprisingly affects learning. A study at West Point Military Academy found that cadets in cooler classrooms, around 67 degrees Fahrenheit per 19 degrees Celsius, performed 15% better on complex problem solving than those in warmer rooms. Your brain operates most efficiently at slightly cooler temperatures. One reason many people feel more alert in brisk morning air. Here's how to optimize your body for learning right now. 1. Movement snacks. Take 2-minute movement breaks every 30 minutes of study. Hydration. Keep water nearby and sip regularly. Urine should be light lemonade colored. Posture checks. Sit upright with shoulders back to optimize breathing and alertness. Strategic eating. Save heavy meals for after intensive learning sessions. Temperature control. Keep your learning environment slightly cool. Sleep rituals. Protect sleep time as sacred learning time. As we'll explore in the next chapter, focus is the gateway to deep learning. But remember, no amount of concentration techniques can compensate for a sleep-deprived, poorly nourished, sedentary body. Treat your physical health as the foundation of your learning potential, and you'll unlock levels of cognitive performance you never thought possible. Chapter 8. The Focus Workout. Concentration is not just a mental skill. It's a physiological state your entire body cooperates to create. Modern neuroscience reveals that focus operates like a muscle. It fatigues with overuse but grows stronger with proper training. The average office worker now switches tasks every 3 minutes, and studies show it takes 23 minutes to fully regain deep focus after an interruption. This explains why so many people feel they've lost the ability to concentrate. They're not broken, they've simply been exercising the wrong mental muscles. Your brain has an attention system that works much like a camera lens. The prefrontal cortex acts as your focus dial, while the parietal lobe helps shift attention between targets. When properly tuned, this system allows laser-like concentration, but constant task switching trains it to behave like a jittery zoom lens that can't stay still. The good news? You can recalibrate your focus mechanism through specific exercises that rebuild your attention span from the neural ground up. Consider the remarkable training regimen of competitive memory athletes. These individuals can memorize the order of a shuffled deck of cards in under 30 seconds. A feat that seems superhuman. Yet brain scans reveal their secret isn't superior intelligence, but exceptional focus control. Through deliberate practice, they've strengthened their anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's focus regulator, to block out distractions. Even more encouraging, when researchers taught complete beginners these techniques for just 6 weeks, their brains began resembling those of memory champions. The business world provides compelling evidence of focus's value. When Microsoft studied its employees' work patterns, it found those who took regular focus sprints, undisturbed 90-minute work blocks, produced higher quality work than colleagues who multitasked. Similarly, a University of California study revealed that workers distracted by emails experienced IQ drops twice as severe as marijuana users. Your brain can either diffuse its power across multiple shallow tasks or concentrate it into meaningful breakthroughs, but never both simultaneously. Here's how to conduct a focus workout to rebuild your concentration capacity. 1. Warm up. 2 minutes sit upright. Take 5 deep belly breaths, and set a clear intention for your focus session. Sprint. 15 to 25 minutes work on a single task with full attention. No glancing at phones or other tabs. Recovery. 5 minutes stand up, move around, and let your mind wander completely. Repeat. Gradually extend sprint durations as your focus muscles strengthen. This interval training approach works because it respects your brain's natural attention rhythms. Research shows that even brief mental breaks increase focus stamina by allowing your default mode network, the diffuse thinking system from Chapter 2, to recharge your cognitive batteries. Your physical environment dramatically impacts focus ability. A Princeton Neuroscience Institute study found that visual clutter competes for your brain's attention just like audible distractions. Workers in clean, minimalist spaces outperformed those in cluttered environments on concentration tests by 18%. This explains why many writers and programmers favor sparse workspaces. They're removing cognitive competition for their focus resources. Technology isn't inherently distracting. It's how we use it that determines its impact. The same smartphone that shatters concentration can become a focus tool with these adjustments. Enable grayscale mode to reduce attention-grabbing colors. Use app timers to create friction for habitual checking. Schedule focus mode blocks where only priority apps function. Position notifications to require conscious swiping rather than popping up. An intriguing military study helps explain why focus falters. Navy SEAL candidates undergoing hellish training were found to maintain focus not through sheer willpower, but by religiously controlling their breathing. When stressed, they practiced tactical breathing for second inhale, for second hold, for second exhale, which immediately improved their focus under fire. This works because controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, quieting the amygdala's panic signals that disrupt concentration. Your diet secretly impacts focus stamina. Foods with low glycemic indexes like nuts, berries, and whole grains provide steady mental energy, while sugary snacks cause attention crashes. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fish and walnuts actually build myelin sheaths that make neural signals crisper and clearer. A UCLA study found that students who ate omega-3 rich diets could focus 20% longer during exams than peers eating standard cafeteria food. The Pomodoro technique, working in 25-minute focus bursts, has gained popularity for good reason. This method aligns with your brain's natural ultradian rhythms, 90 to 120-minute energy cycles, divided into manageable chunks. But modern neuroscience suggests an upgrade. Instead of fixed 25-minute blocks, tune into your personal focus cycle length. Some people thrive with 45-minute sprints, while others do best with 18-minute bursts. Track your productive periods to discover your natural concentration span. Surprisingly, certain distractions can actually enhance focus when used strategically. Research at the University of Chicago found that low-level ambient noise, like coffee shop chatter, boosts creativity and concentration for about 80% of people. This coffee shop effect occurs because moderate background noise provides just enough stimulation to keep your brain from seeking other distractions. Apps like Noisely and Brain FM now replicate this effect with science-backed soundscapes. Your eyes are focus control levers. Scientists have discovered that narrowing your visual focus, like staring at a small dot, automatically tightens your mental focus, while wide-angle gazing encourages diffuse thinking. This explains why reading physical books often feels more immersive than screens. The fixed focal distance reduces visual competition. Try this. When needing deep focus, rest your gaze on a small object for 30 seconds to trigger concentrated mental state. Here's your 24-hour focus optimization plan. Morning. Start with 10 minutes of exercise to boost BDNF, brain fertilizer. Eat a protein-rich breakfast with healthy fats. Schedule your most demanding focus work within 2 to 4 hours of waking. Afternoon. Take a true lunch break away from screens. Walk outdoors. Natural light resets circadian focus rhythms. Save meetings and administrative tasks for post-lunch dip. Evening. Practice attention hygiene. No multitasking during dinner. Dim lights 90 minutes before bed to protect sleep quality. Reflect on 3 focused accomplishments from the day. As we'll explore in Chapter 9, memory and focus are intimately connected. But first, try this today. For your next important task, begin with a focus ritual. Clear your workspace, set a phone timer, and assume a power posture for 30 seconds before starting. You'll notice an immediate difference in your concentration depth. Chapter 9, Memory Hacks. Remember anything without stress. Your memory isn't a filing cabinet that gradually fills up. It's a dynamic, living network that grows stronger the more you use it creatively. Neuroscientists have discovered that forgetting isn't a failure of memory, but rather its sophisticated filtering system at work. The average person forgets 56% of new information within an hour, 66% within a day, and 75% within a week, unless they use specific techniques to signal the brain. This is worth keeping. The good news? These methods aren't tedious drills. They're engaging strategies that transform memory work from chore to adventure. The secret to powerful recall lies in understanding how your brain prioritizes information. Your hippocampus, the seahorse-shaped region deep in your temporal lobe, acts as memory's gatekeeper, deciding what to store long-term based on three key factors: emotional intensity, repetition patterns, and connection to existing knowledge. Ancient Greek orators discovered this intuitively, developing memory palaces, method of loci, that allowed them to recall hours-long speeches without notes. Modern science confirms these techniques work because they hijack the brain's natural preference for spatial and emotional encoding. Consider the incredible case study of London taxi drivers preparing for The Knowledge, their grueling memorization of 25,000 streets and 20,000 landmarks. Researchers found these drivers didn't just brute force the information. They created elaborate mental maps with vivid stories about each location. A driver might remember a turn onto Baker Street by imagining Sherlock Holmes baking bread that smelled suspiciously like the nearby sandwich shop. This technique leverages what cognitive scientists call dual coding, combining verbal information with visual and spatial memory systems for ultra-stable recall. Here's why conventional rote memorization fails. Your brain didn't evolve to remember isolated facts, but rather survival-relevant information: where to find food, which plants are poisonous, who owes you favors. When you transform abstract data into concrete, multisensory experiences, you trick your hippocampus into treating it as survival-critical. A University of Waterloo study proved this. Participants who converted vocabulary words into mental images recalled 300% more than those using repetition alone. Try this powerful memory experiment right now. 1. Lista. Read these random words once: apple, courage, umbrella, whisper, triangle. List B. For these words, take 3 seconds per word to imagine a vivid scene. Elephant. Picture a purple elephant balancing on a beach ball. Justice. See Lady Justice eating a giant gavel like an ice cream cone. Oxygen. Visualize yourself breathing underwater like a fish. Wait 5 minutes. Then test recall of both lists. You'll likely remember nearly all of List B while forgetting much of List A. This is the power of elaborative encoding. Your brain remembers the bizarre images because they activate multiple sensory regions, creating more neural handles to grab the memory later. The business world has quietly adopted these techniques. Fortune 500 executives use memory palaces to recall key figures during presentations. Trial attorneys employ vivid imagery to remember case details without notes. Even emergency room doctors use similar methods to recall complex treatment protocols under pressure. These aren't party tricks. They're practical tools that leverage how your brain naturally works. Spaced repetition is memory's most scientifically validated hack. This technique involves reviewing information at increasing intervals, right before you're about to forget it. The brain interprets this timing pattern as evolutionary significant. If I keep encountering this information at strategic moments, it must be important. Software like Anki automates this process, but you can implement a simple version. 1. First review immediately after learning. Second review 1 day later. Third review 3 days after that. Fourth review 1 week later. Subsequent reviews gradually extend to monthly intervals. A German study found medical students using spaced repetition outperformed traditional studiers by 47% on board exams, with 60% less total study time. This explains why cramming fails for long-term retention. It provides no forgetting recovery cycles to cement memories. Your sleep plays a surprising role in memory optimization. During deep sleep, your brain replays the day's experiences at 20x normal speed, transferring them from temporary hippocampal storage to permanent cortical archives. Harvard research shows that people who study before sleeping retain 30 to 50% more than those who study in the morning and stay awake all day. Even brief naps after learning enhance memory consolidation. A 20-minute power nap can boost recall by 20%. Here are 5 unconventional but science-backed memory boosters. 1. Chewing gum while learning increases hippocampal activity by 25%. University of Northumbria. Learning in unusual environments. The novelty enhances encoding. University of Michigan. Teaching material immediately after learning forces retrieval and reorganization. Washington University. Associating smells with information. Smell triggers vivid recall, Brown University. Drawing concepts. Even bad sketches improve memory, University of Waterloo. Language learners have uncovered powerful memory shortcuts. The most successful polyglots don't memorize vocabulary lists. They use mnemonic peg systems, attaching new words to funny mental images. For example, to remember that Spanish cabra means goat, imagine a cab driver, sounds like cabra, with goat horns beeping at traffic. This seems silly, but a Max Planck Institute study found such methods accelerate language acquisition by 400%. Your smartphone is actually an ideal memory training device when used strategically. Use photo reminders. Snap pictures of where you parked or items to buy. Record voice memos in emotionally expressive tones. Create visual associations for contacts. Assign celebrity photos to names. Use geofencing to trigger location-based reminders. The military has developed extreme memory methods for personnel who must recall complex protocols under stress. Navy SEALs use battle mind techniques, associating procedures with physical sensations and emotional states. This explains how soldiers can remember intricate combat maneuvers amid chaos. They've layered memories across multiple brain systems. Here's your 7-day memory workout plan. Day 1 to 2. Practice converting abstract information into vivid mental images. Day 3 to 4. Build a simple memory palace using your childhood home layout. Day 5 to 6. Apply spaced repetition to material you're currently learning. Day 7. Teach someone everything you've memorized this week. Chapter 10. Learning in the Wild. Why we learn best together. Human brains evolved as social organs. Our ability to learn is hardwired to thrive in community settings. Neuroscience reveals that collaborative learning activates brain regions associated with motivation, reward, and deep processing that solitary study often misses. When astronauts train for space missions, medical students practice surgeries, or musicians prepare concerts, they spend up to 70% of their preparation time learning together. Not because it's pleasant, but because it's scientifically proven to accelerate mastery. Your brain contains specialized social neurons, called mirror neurons, that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else doing it. This neural mirroring system allows you to learn complex skills just by watching others. Your brain practices internally as you observe. A fascinating study at the University of Chicago found that basketball players who combined physical practice with observation of expert players showed nearly identical neural development to those who only practiced physically. Their brains couldn't tell the difference between doing and watching. Consider the extraordinary case of the Blue Man Group's training program. New performers spend months learning through imitation, not formal instruction. They stand beside veterans, mirroring movements until their mirror neuron systems internalize the precise timing and coordination. This same principle explains why children in Montessori classrooms, where older students mentor younger ones, often outperform traditional students academically. Learning flows naturally when it occurs through human connection rather than isolated study. The business world has quantified collaborative learning's power. Google's Project Aristotle studied hundreds of teams and found psychological safety. The sense that one can take risks without embarrassment was the #1 factor in high-performing groups. Teams that admitted ignorance, asked stupid questions, and celebrated mistakes together learned faster than guarded, competitive groups. This explains why companies like Pixar design cafeterias to force random interactions. They're creating collision spaces for unexpected learning exchanges. Try this social learning experiment. 1. Choose a skill you're developing, a language phrase, dance move, or math concept. Learn it alone for 15 minutes using your normal methods. Then find a partner and explain the concept in your own words. Have them demonstrate their understanding. Discuss differences in your approaches. 4. Test your retention after 24 hours compared to solo learned material. You'll likely find the socially processed information sticks better. This is the protege effect in action. When you know you'll need to explain something, your brain organizes it more thoroughly. Language learning showcases social learning's superiority. While apps can teach vocabulary, research shows conversational practice produces 4x faster fluency gains. A University of Michigan study found that students who practice Spanish through weekly conversations outperformed solo app users in grammar comprehension and speaking fluency, even when both groups spent equal time studying. Your brain prioritizes information that proves socially useful. The military's after-action review, AR, process demonstrates structured collaborative learning. After every mission or training exercise, teams gather to answer 4 questions. 1. What was supposed to happen? 2. What actually happened? 3. Why were there differences? 4. What will we sustain or improve next time? This ritual creates what psychologists call productive failure. Mistakes become team property rather than individual shame. A West Point study found units using ARs learned combat skills 40% faster than those debriefing individually. Your smartphone can enhance social learning when used intentionally. Join niche learning communities, like Reddit's r/LearnXYZ subgroups. Use video calls for study body doubling with distant peers. Record yourself explaining concepts to an imaginary student. Participate in Twitter/X. Ask Me Anything threads on your topic. Surprisingly, even passive social learning has power. A University of Pennsylvania study found that workers who could observe top performers, without direct interaction, improved 20% faster than those learning alone. This explains why open-plan kitchens train better chefs and glass-walled offices develop better analysts. Visibility enables observational learning. Here's how to structure optimal learning partnerships. 1. The explainer teaches concepts aloud, revealing gaps in understanding. The questioner asks clarifying questions, forcing deeper processing. The synthesizer identifies connections between ideas. The applier brainstorms practical uses for the knowledge. Rotate these roles to engage different learning modalities. MIT researchers found study groups using this structure mastered material in half the time of unstructured groups. Your social learning toolkit. For kids, teach your stuffed animal method. Family show and tell nights. Multiplayer educational games. For students, reciprocal teaching groups. Peer grading with feedback templates. Jigsaw method where each learns one piece then teaches it. For professionals, mastermind groups with accountability structures. Cross-training with colleagues. Lunch and learn presentation series. For seniors, intergenerational learning programs. Book clubs with discussion prompts. Skill-sharing cooperatives. Chapter 11. Turning Struggle into Strength. The moment of frustration when learning feels impossible isn't a roadblock. It's the precise neurological sweet spot where maximum growth occurs. Brain scans reveal that when learners encounter desirable difficulties, challenges calibrated just beyond current abilities, their neural activity spikes in patterns predictive of long-term retention. This explains why the most effective learning often feels inefficient in the moment. That sense of struggle is literally your brain building new connections. Your brain responds to productive challenges with a biological cascade that promotes learning. When you grapple with difficult material, your neurons release brain-derived neurotrophic factor BDNF, which acts like fertilizer for neural connections. Simultaneously, moderate stress triggers noradrenaline, sharpening your focus, while dopamine rewards eventual breakthroughs. This perfect neurochemical cocktail only occurs when you operate at the edge of your capabilities. Too easy and the mixture doesn't form. Too hard and cortisol overwhelms the system. Consider the training methods of Olympic divers. They deliberately practice in unstable environments, adjusting lighting, adding background noise, or varying springboard tension. This controlled adversity creates what sports scientists call adaptive stress. Just enough difficulty to force neurological adaptation without causing shutdown. When these athletes later compete under normal conditions, their skills feel effortless because they were forged through calculated struggle. The same principle applies to academic or professional learning. A revealing MIT study tracked 2 groups of engineering students. The first learned through traditional lectures and problem sets. The second received confusion-based instruction. Teachers deliberately introduced contradictions and missing information, forcing students to wrestle with concepts. Initially, the second group performed worse on weekly quizzes, but by semester's end, they outperformed the first group by 18% on complex applications. Their early struggles had built deeper conceptual understanding. Try this strategic struggle exercise. 1. Choose a skill you can perform comfortably. Math problems, free throws, speech in a foreign language. Add intentional obstacles. For math, solve problems with distracting music. For sports, practice with your non-dominant hand. For languages, speak while someone interrupts you. Return to normal conditions and notice enhanced fluency. This mimics how pilots train in flight simulators, Mastering skills under exaggerated difficulty makes real-world application feel simple. The business world has embraced productive struggle through pre-mortem exercises. Before launching projects, teams imagine they've failed spectacularly and work backward to identify potential pitfalls. This counterintuitive practice, visualizing failure to ensure success, forces the kind of deep engagement that lecture-based training can't match. Companies using pre-mortems report 30% fewer unexpected problems. Your brain's response to challenge changes across the lifespan. Children's highly plastic brains thrive on constant novelty, while adult brains benefit from deeper engagement with fewer topics. A University of Texas study found adults learn complex skills best through deep dives, immersing in one area for 3 to 4 months before switching. This extended focus allows time to push through plateaus where initial excitement fades but before true mastery begins. Technology often shields us from beneficial struggle. Autocorrect fixes spelling errors, GPS prevents wrong turns, and calculators skip mental math. While convenient, this eliminates opportunities for error-based learning. Try periodically disabling these aids. Handwrite important notes to reinforce memory, navigate using maps rather than turn-by-turn directions, or calculate tips mentally. These small struggles maintain fundamental cognitive muscles. The most successful learners employ struggle rituals, structured approaches to difficulty. 1. The 20-minute rule. Commit to wrestling with a problem for 20 uninterrupted minutes before seeking help. Error logs. Track mistakes to identify patterns rather than viewing each as isolated failures. Struggle timers. Allocate specific sessions for productive frustration separate from relaxed practice. Micro-challenges. Create daily, desirable difficulties, like reading slightly complex material. Language learning research reveals struggle's importance. Students who immediately receive translations show poorer long-term retention than those who first attempt to infer meaning from context. That moment of confusion, when the brain scrambles to make connections, is where durable learning occurs. Apps like Duolingo now incorporate strategic delays in revealing answers to force this productive struggle. Physical exercise science confirms this principle. Muscles grow through progressive overload, gradually increasing resistance. Similarly, your brain develops through cognitive overload, tackling material that feels slightly too difficult. A Cambridge University study found mathematicians solved more creative problems when working at 85% of their maximum capacity, the sweet spot where challenge promotes growth without causing shutdowns. Here's how to reframe learning obstacles. Instead of, "I don't understand this," think, "My brain is building new connections right now." Instead of, "This feels uncomfortable," think, "Discomfort means I'm operating at my growing edge." Instead of, "I keep making mistakes," think, "Each error is providing precise feedback for improvement." Surprisingly, struggling learners often develop more creative solutions than quick studiers. A Vanderbilt University study gave students complex engineering problems. Those who struggled initially but persisted ultimately produced more innovative solutions than peers who grasped concepts immediately. Early difficulty forced deeper engagement with fundamentals. Your struggle toolkit. For students, try problems before reviewing solutions. Handwrite notes before typing. Create practice tests before looking at study guides. For professionals, attempt tasks before training. Volunteer for stretch assignments. Analyze failed projects before successful ones. For lifelong learners, learn in uncomfortable environments occasionally. Delay Googling answers to sit with questions. Practice explaining half-formed understandings. Chapter 12. The joy of effortless mastery. There comes a magical turning point in every learning journey where what once required excruciating effort suddenly flows with natural ease. Neuroscientists call this shift automaticity, when your brain transfers skills from laborious conscious processing to effortless subconscious execution. This transition doesn't happen gradually, but rather through a series of sudden breakthroughs that feel like unlocking new levels in a video game. Your fingers find the right piano keys without looking. Grammar rules apply themselves as you speak a foreign language, and complex math problems unfold with intuitive clarity. This state of flow isn't reserved for prodigies. It's the natural result of well-structured practice meeting neuroplasticity. Brain scans of experts reveal startling efficiency. Where novices show frantic activity across multiple brain regions, masters demonstrate calm, focused activation only in specific areas needed for the task. Like a seasoned driver navigating familiar roads, Their brains have optimized neural pathways through thousands of deliberate repetitions. The cognitive load lifts, leaving pure performance. Consider the fascinating case of professional baseball players facing 90 miles per hour fastballs. At that speed, the ball reaches home plate in about 0.4 seconds, faster than conscious visual processing allows. Yet hitters consistently make contact because their brains have trained to recognize pitch patterns subconsciously. A Yale study found that expert batters' decision-making happens not in the cortex, but in older brain regions that process reflex and intuition. Their years of struggle have been internalized into instant reaction. You've experienced many versions of this mastery throughout your life. Remember learning to ride a bike? That terrifying wobble phase where you concentrated on every movement suddenly gave way to smooth gliding. Your cerebellum had taken over the balancing computations, freeing your conscious mind to enjoy the ride. This same transition occurs with any complex skill, from coding to public speaking, given proper practice and time. The path to effortless performance follows predictable neurological stages. First comes the cognitive phase, slow, error-prone, and mentally exhausting as you consciously work through each step. Next emerges the associative phase, fewer mistakes, faster execution, but still requiring attention. Finally arrives the autonomous phase. The skill runs in the background while your conscious mind focuses on higher-level strategy. A University of Colorado study tracked this progression in surgeons. By their 1,000th procedure, their hands moved with precision while their minds focused entirely on patient-specific variables. Flow states, those magical moments of complete absorption, occur most frequently at this mastery stage. Hungarian psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi found that flow happens when challenges perfectly match skills. This explains why beginners rarely experience flow. Their skills haven't caught up to the challenge level, and why masters must continually seek new challenges to maintain the state. The sweet spot lies just beyond current ability but within reach through focused effort. Your brain actually changes physically during mastery. White matter, the neural wiring connecting brain regions, becomes more efficient through a process called myelination. Glial cells wrap nerve fibers in fatty sheaths that speed electrical signals up to 100x faster. This biological insulation explains why expert violinists can play rapid passages novices can't comprehend. Their neural signals literally travel faster along optimized pathways. Try this mastery test with any skill you've practiced. 1. Attempt the skill while simultaneously counting backward from 100. If performance remains strong, you've achieved autonomous phase. If it collapses, the skill still requires conscious attention. This dual-task paradigm reveals how much mental bandwidth a skill consumes. London taxi drivers could navigate while doing math problems. Tourists using GPS couldn't. True mastery means the skill has become second nature. The business world recognizes this principle through the 10,000-hour rule, though research clarifies it's not mere time but deliberate practice that matters. McKinsey studies show it takes new consultants about 2 years to reach unconscious competence in core skills, the stage where analysis becomes intuition. This explains why experienced professionals often struggle to teach beginners. Their hard-won knowledge has become so automatic they've forgotten the conscious steps needed to explain it. Surprisingly, maintaining mastery requires occasional reversion to struggle. Pianists who only play familiar pieces gradually lose ability, while those who continually challenge themselves with new music sustain excellence. A University of Florida study found surgeons who practiced unfamiliar procedures maintained skills longer than those repeating mastered ones. The brain preserves what it regularly uses in challenging contexts. Here's how to cultivate effortless mastery. 1. Identify core skills. Focus on fundamental patterns that recur in your field. Practice to automaticity. Drill these until they require no conscious thought. Chunk complex sequences. Combine automated skills into larger routines. Add constraints. Practice with artificial limitations to force adaptability. Vary contexts. Apply skills in unpredictable environments. Language learning shows this beautifully. Beginners translate word by word, while fluent speakers think directly in the language. The shift happens through massive exposure, not just to perfect textbook examples but to messy real-world usage. This explains why immersion works. It forces the brain to automate communication rather than analyze it. Your mastery toolkit. For students, flashcards for instant recall of fundamentals, speed drills for math facts or vocabulary, self-testing under mild pressure. For professionals, Simulation training for high-stakes scenarios, shadowing experts to absorb their automatic patterns. Teaching others to surface unconscious knowledge. For artists/athletes, slow-motion practice of perfect form. Variable practice, mixing skills randomly. Imagery rehearsal of ideal performances. As we approach our final chapters, remember that mastery isn't a destination but a manner of traveling. In Chapter 13, we'll explore how to direct this powerful learning engine toward any new challenge life presents. But first, take a moment to appreciate how far you've come. Every effortless skill you now possess was once an impossible struggle. Chapter 13, Become a Learning Detective. How to crack any subject. Great learners approach new subjects like detectives solving mysteries. They observe patterns, ask strategic questions, and piece together clues until the bigger picture emerges. This investigative mindset transforms learning from passive consumption to active discovery. Your brain naturally excels at investigative learning. Neuroimaging reveals that curiosity activates both your default mode network and executive functions simultaneously. This dual activation creates deeper neural connections than rote memorization ever could. Medical diagnosticians demonstrate this perfectly. They don't memorize symptoms. They train in pattern recognition through real case studies. Each patient presents a unique mystery to solve, with clues, red herrings, and eventual solutions. This method builds flexible expertise. Apply the scientific method to your learning. First, observe the subject landscape objectively. Then generate questions and hypotheses before seeking answers. Test your predictions through application. Finally, revise your mental models based on results. Try this detective exercise. Before studying, list what you already know and identify 3 knowledge gaps. As you learn, watch for clues addressing these gaps specifically. This active engagement creates cognitive hooks for better retention. Warren Buffett's investment strategy shows the power of investigative learning. He doesn't start with financials. He asks why a business succeeds when others fail. This approach reveals insights numbers alone can't provide. Apply this by asking what problems a theory solves or why a formula works. Language learners who approach new tongues as codes to crack outperform memorizers. They notice sentence patterns, identify word roots, and test grammatical hypotheses. This active investigation builds true understanding rather than superficial knowledge. Use technology strategically to enhance investigations. Mind maps visualize connections between concepts. Annotation tools let you mark up digital texts with questions. Spaced repetition apps highlight which areas need reinvestigation. The military's intelligence training offers valuable lessons. Analysts constantly ask, "What do I know? What don't I know? What do I need to know?" This prevents the common mistake of focusing only on testable facts rather than deeper understanding. Structure your investigations in phases. First, survey the crime scene by skimming materials. Then, collect evidence from multiple sources. Interrogate how pieces connect. Finally, synthesize findings in your own words while noting remaining mysteries. MIT research reveals key differences between expert and novice learners. Novices focus on what facts to memorize. Experts concentrate on why underlying principles. Adopting this expert mindset early accelerates your progress. For students, convert chapter headings into questions before reading. Create theory pages predicting how concepts connect. Design your own test questions based on perceived importance. For professionals, analyze case studies before learning principles. Reverse engineer successful projects to uncover why they worked. Maintain a learning log of insights and ongoing questions. For creative fields, study masterworks element by element. Recreate pieces with intentional variations to test theories. Collect inspiration clues from unrelated disciplines. The joy of investigative learning lies in the process itself. When you approach subjects as mysteries to solve rather than information to absorb, you unlock lifelong learning superpowers. This mindset serves you far beyond any single subject. Investigative learning creates durable, flexible knowledge. By focusing on patterns and connections rather than isolated facts, you build understanding that transfers across disciplines. This is the hallmark of true expertise. The best learners maintain curiosity even after mastering fundamentals. They know every subject contains deeper layers to explore. This perpetual investigation mindset fuels continuous growth throughout life. Chapter 14. Your Personalized Learning Toolkit. The most effective learners aren't those who follow rigid study systems, but those who curate personalized toolkits matching their unique brain wiring. Modern neuroscience confirms what great teachers have always known. Learning is not one size fits all. Your ideal methods depend on your neurobiology, lifestyle, and goals. This chapter will guide you in assembling a custom set of evidence-based strategies that work with how you think, not against it. Your learning style isn't fixed at birth. It's a dynamic interplay between your innate tendencies and acquired skills. Brain scans reveal that when people use methods aligned with their cognitive patterns, their dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center, activates more efficiently. This doesn't mean you should only use comfortable approaches, but rather that your toolkit should include bridges between natural strengths and areas needing development. Consider the remarkable adaptability demonstrated by stroke victims relearning basic skills. Through neuroplasticity, their brains often shift functions to undamaged areas. Similarly, you can train yourself to learn through multiple modalities: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, even if one feels more natural initially. A University of Amsterdam study found that students who developed secondary learning styles alongside primary preferences achieved 30% better retention than those relying solely on their natural style. Your toolkit should address 4 critical learning dimensions. 1. Acquisition: how you best absorb new information. Processing: how you make sense of what you've learned. Retention: how you cement knowledge long-term. Application: how you transfer learning to real situations. Start by auditing your current tendencies. For 1 week, track what time of day you learn most effectively, which environments help or hinder your focus, which sensory channels, seeing, hearing, doing, work best, how long you can maintain peak concentration, what distractions most frequently derail you. This data reveals your baseline learning profile. Notice patterns rather than isolated instances. Your brain operates in rhythms, not absolutes. The business world offers powerful models for personalized learning. Amazon's working backwards approach starts with the desired outcome, then identifies the precise skills needed to achieve it. Apply this to your learning by beginning with clear goals, then selecting only tools that serve those objectives. A marketing professional needing data skills would choose different methods than a nurse learning Spanish. Effectiveness trumps popularity. Technology now enables unprecedented personalization. Apps like Elevate and Lumosity adapt to your performance in real time. AI tutors like Canmigo adjust explanations based on your confusion points. Even simple tools like speech-to-text can bypass writing struggles for strong verbal thinkers. The key is using technology as a tailored assistant rather than passive consumer. Build your toolkit through strategic experimentation. For visual learners, concept mapping software, MindNode, XMind.
Sketchnoting technique.
Color-coded information hierarchies. Spatial memory systems. For auditory learners, text-to-speech readers. Rhythmic mnemonics. Discussion-based learning. Podcast creation as a study method. For kinesthetic learners, gesture-based memory techniques. Walking while reciting material. Hands-on prototyping. Tactile learning aids. For social learners, study groups with defined roles, teaching demonstrations, peer feedback systems, collaborative annotation tools. Your circadian rhythm significantly impacts learning efficiency. Genetic testing reveals whether you're a morning lark, night owl, or intermediate chronotype. Aligning challenging study with peak alertness times can double effectiveness. A University of Birmingham study found students taught at their optimal time learned in 30 minutes what took others 50 minutes at non-peak times. Nutrition provides the biochemical foundation for learning. The MTHFR gene variant affects how your brain utilizes B vitamins crucial for focus. Omega-3 requirements vary by individual. Simple blood tests can identify your optimal learning nutrition plan. When researchers at Northeastern University personalized diets based on metabolic profiles, students showed 18% improvement in cognitive testing. Your toolkit should evolve as you do. Children benefit from more sensory-based learning, while adults often shift toward conceptual frameworks. Midlife learners frequently develop stronger metacognition, the ability to think about their thinking. Regular toolkit audits ensure your methods mature with your changing brain. Create a learning lab environment. Multiple lighting options, bright for focus, soft for creativity. Variable seating, standing desk, exercise ball, cozy chair, noise control tools, noise-canceling headphones, white noise, tactile objects for fidgeting. Research shows this aids concentration. Track your toolkit's effectiveness with simple metrics. Time to mastery of new concepts. Retention after 1 week/month. Application accuracy in real situations. Enjoyment level during learning. The most successful toolkits balance challenge and comfort. Include some methods that feel natural and others that stretch your abilities. Like cross-training for athletes, this builds robust learning capacity. Chapter 15. The never-ending adventure of lifelong learning. Your learning journey doesn't end when you close this book. It's just beginning. The most extraordinary learners in history, from Leonardo da Vinci to Marie Curie, shared one crucial trait. They never stopped being curious. Modern neuroscience confirms that your brain can keep growing, adapting, and mastering new skills throughout your entire life. This final chapter isn't about conclusions, but about launching you into a lifetime of discovery where every day brings opportunities to expand your mind. The myth that you can't teach an old dog new tricks has been completely debunked by cutting-edge research. Scientists at Columbia University found that healthy older adults who embraced new cognitive challenges developed just as many new neural connections as college students. Your brain doesn't care how old you are, it responds to how you use it. The key lies in understanding that lifelong learning isn't about memorizing more facts, but about continually rewiring your perspective to see the world with fresh eyes. Consider the inspiring case of Dr. Barbara Oakley, who flunked her way through high school math and science, only to become a celebrated engineering professor in midlife. Her transformation wasn't magic. It was the result of applying the exact learning principles we've explored. Like Dr. Oakley, you have the power to reinvent yourself intellectually at any age by working with your brain's natural learning systems rather than against them. The world's fastest-changing job market makes continuous learning no longer optional. A recent World Economic Forum report predicts that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. But here's the exciting part. By mastering how to learn, you're not just preparing for specific jobs. You're developing the ultimate career insurance. The ability to adapt and thrive no matter how technology or industries evolve.